All right, welcome, everyone. We are super excited to have everyone on this month's episode of the Damien and Danielle download. And as you guys all know, I am Danielle, and I've got my very fabulous friend, the Power Diary Guru, the one and only Damien Adler. Damien, say hello.
Well, an intro. Hello, Danielle. How are you?
I'm good. I know we have a lot to talk about today.
We
So
do.
I'm just going to dial it off right now because there are so many new features to touch upon. And well, what do we got? A big announcement
Yeah,
to talk about too, right?
absolutely. We've got amazing list of things today. And in fact, I was just saying before we went on that I've actually even printed these our list out today because we have so much to cover. Very, very exciting. And our engineering team, product team, everyone has been working so well and so hard to get lots and lots of features out. So let's dive in. But before we do, one of the big sort of announcements, if some of our audience may not have heard yet, and we'll talk a little bit more about this at the end, but we have achieved our ISO 27001 security certification, which is sort of the, it's an internationally set sort of standard about the, way in which IT management systems and everything should manage security. And it covers a whole bunch of stuff. It's externally, the standards externally set, externally assessed and accredited and whatnot, and we'll go through that. It's been a big project, but it is something that we were felt really passionate about, making sure that that it's one thing to kind of say that a system is secure and to have that to be able to have the do the normal sorts of things that you might think to do, but when you're sort of using an externally set kind of gold standard and having that externally sort of certified, it means that that the level of sort of confidence is not relying on us saying to our customers, hey, yes, we're secure, we're doing the right things. And it also means that you can have blind spots, right? So even with the best of intent, you can have a security program that has blind spots that you're not aware of, what you don't know. So you might think of all the obvious things that you might do in terms of securing a system, but there can be things that slip through the gaps. And one of the things that's wonderful about the ISO 27001 is that it's prescribed in every single area. So whether it's about the technical things, which is what people immediately kind of think about, but it's all the other things as well. So about staff training, about your policies, your procedures, your adherence to that, incident reporting, everything that you can think of. So it covers the full spectrum of how you operate the business, not just like, is information encrypted, which is usually what people think, and do you have two-factor authentication turned on? They're the obvious things that people kind of think of. But in fact, most security incidents actually don't come from that. They come from failures in other parts of operating. So really, amazing that we are there, and we're so proud to have that out. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but let's dive in and look at the
Yes.
features first that we have, because man, we have a lot. Right.
It was a very, very busy month for the engineering development team, everybody involved getting it out the door. So let's dive in. That's enough.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's talk about it. Let's
Okay.
start with that big one that everyone was really excited about. Go.
So this is Telehealth Plus. So we've had telehealth for many years, and it's extremely popular. A lot of people use it. There is so many telehealth calls happening every single day. But we have released Telehealth Plus in beta version, which means it's the kind of out there for use, but we're still refining it and having people use it. Now, what does Telehealth Plus mean? What does it do? Well, it expands the functionality of telehealth so you can have multiple participants. So it's one of the key kind of changes. So where you might want to do that is previously the standard version of telehealth, one practitioner, one patient or client. With Telehealth Plus, you can now have multiple participants. That might mean multiple practitioners or multiple patients, or it may be a patient and their support or it might be a couple, or it might be, kids and their parents. So many different scenarios where people want to be able to provide telehealth to more than one-on-one type interaction. So that was one of the kind of core elements of Telehealth Plus, but Telehealth Plus has a lot more.
Yes,
So we also have so the screen sharing capacity, screen and screen sort of mirroring. You can also change the kind of size of what you're looking at. So you've got sort of more control and flexibility around that, but also chat within the telehealth call itself. So sharing things within the chat and having that kind of interaction is something that we were hearing from our customers that they wanted. So
and there's actually a new little thing that just came out today, and I don't even have it on that sheet for you. And I just remembered pinning the user. So like when you're on the telehealth call, you can pin who you want to be kind of in the forefront and in the big screen. So if you've got multiple people and you want to pin the practitioner or pin a particular client that you want to see in kind of bigger view, that just went out today. So they're kind of constantly improving this feature, listening to the feedback of the users who are using it, practitioners, and then going ahead, rejiggering the platform and making it better and a better experience. And kind of seeing these consistent little releases of these improvements, and they've happened over April I think this came out April like 16, maybe a month ago. So about a month. And we're seeing little improvements happening pretty much every week. And we're going to see, I know there's some other really fun things coming down the line with this feature. You can kind of see coming soon on your Telehealth Plus when you've got it open. You can see little things that are coming soon right at the bottom. And they've really done a really good job. And this has solved a lot of those problems that people were really asking for. You were asking for a long time for these group appointments to have the ability to have more than one person on the call. And this is now, we've given you that solution. And then they're like I said, to improve it based upon
exactly. And that's we could probably do a whole webinar too on this, but one of the things that we changed our approach a little while ago to how we release and build things as well. So Telehealth Plus is a good example that the first release of Telehealth Plus was the ability to have multiple participants, right? And then meanwhile, we're working on the next, feature behind it. So looking at the chat and looking at the things you can do with video and screen sharing. But in the past, what we would have done is we would have spec'd out that the whole new Telehealth Plus, and we would have built it and released it in one go, right? And now we've sort of adjusted our approach a bit so that it's a more of a live interaction between our customers and our product development and our engineering and release, so that we'll have our plans of what we're going to do, but we'll release and build something that's releasable so people can actually start using it, and we get real feedback while it's like that. And then the next thing that we're building, we can factor in that feedback and have that, so it's more of a live interaction as people actually get to use it and tell us, what they like, what they don't like, and so forth. And so, like you said, like a month ago, we released, or just over maybe the group, and we've already then had all these things coming out that builds on it, and we have some more in the pipeline as well. So really,
it could be in the next 7, before we even get this published and out to all of our Power Diary community, there could be something else that has come out, but these are what's out right now. Now, I just want to put a little disclaimer on this because I think it's just important to remember when we first released Telehealth Plus, it is in beta form. So again, work in progress, and it right now is free to use. As this gets developed and we finalize it, we got all the bells and whistles, and we've got everything you need in there because of the development, all of the, because there's different technology behind this, there will be a cost behind it. And that's okay. If you don't want to use it, the standard telehealth will remain available for those one-on-one calls. But I think you guys are really going to love this, and it will be something you'll want to implement, and it will be something that you'll want to use continuously.
Exactly. And it's really about with the cost, and we'll obviously release that to people, and they can opt to use it or not use it and all the rest of it. And it really just reflects the fact that it actually costs us per minute. There's overhead for us around the per minute of telehealth that occurs. So it's not expensive or anything, but it is something that we incur. So as a business, of course, we need to kind of recoup that cost to make it sort of sustainable. But like you say, people have the choice, like the free telehealth that we have now, that's going to remain, no difference there. If people want to use Telehealth Plus, and maybe just for some of their calls where they actually want these additional features, be able to use it just as needed. So it's we're going to make it flexible in the way that people can do it. But like you say, yes, there will be a small cost involved. We'll put that out ahead of time. People can opt in and out of it and so forth. So we'll let people know all about that. But so far, I mean, the feedback's been amazing. The amount that it saves, meaning that people don't have to get other subscriptions to things that they might be doing. So it works out, extremely well. And
forget the Zoom account.
It's purpose built right into Powered RA. So from a compliance point of view, security point of view, it has to pass our ISO 27001 certification. It has to pass all the requirements for telehealth, whether it's US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, all the different regulations that we kind of look at. So whereas using other platforms that aren't purpose built, some are okay, some pay less attention to these things. So anyway, that's that. All right, let's move on because we do have a lot to get through. Okay, second thing to talk about today is that you can set now a default service for group appointments. So this kind of links actually to the fact that now telehealth you can do with a group, but you can actually now have a default product or service rather that's being utilized for groups, and that just saves you having to go through.
You have to create those individual invoices. It will, as you apply them you add them to the group, it will apply the service and automatically do the invoice. So I think that's a time saver. We like time.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're all about efficiency. So this is just making your business more efficient. Awesome.
Yeah, and then it will allow us to do some more things with groups, which we'll talk about in subsequent episodes.
That's coming soon.
It is coming soon, but we'll talk about that perhaps in another segment, another show. Okay, so now waitlists, right? We have a lot to talk about with waitlists. So waitlists super important for running health practices. We've had a waitlist for quite a few years in the system, and we track every bit of feedback we get every single time, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's someone messaging us on chat or whether it's via email. When people ask for stuff or they say what they like or don't like, that all gets tracked. Now, waitlist was something that we have been getting lots of feedback about over quite a long time, and we wanted to, of course, address that. And we have released a whole bunch of stuff in relation to waitlists. So first of all, we have we're going to eat this elephant. Okay, so custom tags for waitlists. So you can classify, group, and identify clients on the waitlist using these custom tags. And what that means is that the practice can kind of create its own tagging system and allow then really flexible use of tags. Because what we found, and this was the kind of the feedback when we look at it overall, so when we get all this feedback, we kind of stand back from it and look at what are the themes, and we group it together and understand. But what we identify with that is that health practices operate in many, many, many different ways, and they have their own preferred internal ways of managing waitlists that suit the way their individual business operates. So what we realize is that if we built something that wasn't flexible in terms of organizing and grouping, then we might hit the mark for a chunk of our customers. But then there would be a whole bunch that would say, no, but we do it differently. We want more flexibility. And so with a lot of the things we've built here, it's been built with this idea of maximum flexibility. So people can customize how they want to use it. So tagging is a great way. You can create the tags that make sense to you. You can then group and organize and take actions based on those tags. And so there is limitless ways in which you can do it.
Do
Okay, so
whatever
you can
suits your
filter.
business. Yep, which is important.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Rather than us saying, well, this is how we think, people should do it or whatever. That's, we're never going to get it right, in that regard. So
Not for everyone.
not for everyone. No, not for a function like this.
Nope.
So filtering options now on the waitlist. So you can now sort of filter, right, based on like the tags. It could be filtering now based on the availability. So what day the person might be available or the time. So it allows then, instead of having particularly practices that have really long wait lists, and now they're looking for, they have an available time for a certain sort of spot, or they really want to filter and understand, they can now make sure that they can see the clients on the wait list that is relevant to what they're currently doing. So whether it's about, do we have enough people waiting for a Friday afternoon to increase appointments on a Friday afternoon, then they're going to be able to see that and filter. And, if an appointment becomes available, they can filter and match the clients who are waiting for that and use all these different ways of doing it. So that's good. We have a new field on there.
Yep.
So now editable time or waiting since date.
Waiting since
right?
date. Yep.
Yeah. So we've left the other, like there's the date that they added, right? So that's and we've left that as being uneditable, right? So that's the date that were actually added to the system, and that's sort of more like a sort of audit, to have the factual information of when the person was actually added to the wait list. But this here, waiting since, this sort of allows you to capture like when the how long that client has been waiting for an appointment, and it allows you. So for instance, let's say there was a client was leaving an appointment, and you or the admin person said, okay, we'll pop you on the wait list. You may imagine you couldn't find a time, right? And you forgot, right? Right. And it just didn't go on. And then 2 weeks later, the client rings up and says, hey, I've been waiting for 2 weeks. Right. Now, one of the difficulties is that if you then, prior to this, you then added that person to the wait list, it looks like they've only been waiting a day. Right. But in actual fact, they've been waiting for a lot longer. Right. And it meant that when you were filtering and that person really wouldn't come up as a priority in the same way that, so you can actually then add in there and say, like waiting since, and add a customizable date, and therefore you can edit it. You can actually set it to what makes sense for that particular scenario. So very good for tracking, very good for sort of prioritizing. You're able to then see and utilize that rather than just be the date that you want to pop that person on the wait list. So it gives you more flexibility and allows you to really manage that wait list in a way that is useful and not sort of rigid. And they added it's still there, so there's still an audit trail of exactly what happened. Okay. Next thing, you can select and unselect all participants. So we've added a checkbox to the grid. So that way you can do it with a tick, because before, not so easy, right? And so this allows it, it provides more flexibility.
Well, you can go ahead now. Let's say you want to send an SMS to all those people. Maybe you want to get everybody on the list, go choop, whoop. It's kind of like when you're deleting all your spam out of your spam box, right? Maybe you got that spam email, you select them all and you delete, or you take off the ones that you don't want. So now you can select them all. You can uncheck the ones that you don't want, or keep them all checked, send them an SMS or whatever you need to do. It just adds that, that quick, it's like that quick, it's that secret passage. It's that quick way to do something that you just didn't have before. Before you were going click, 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 and now you can just go click, whoop, all done, delete the ones you don't want, and there you go. So exactly, I like it. Just a little simple thing to make your life more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. And a good example here, you might want to select or deselect, say a target list of, let's say you've got a whole bunch of people that have been on the wait list for over 3 months, right? You would hope that wouldn't happen, right? But let's say that it had, because maybe that wait list got out of hand, maybe there was a change in admin team or whatnot, but it can happen, right? Where now you don't really know, like these people still looking for an appointment, et cetera, right? So what you can do is, you can select, a bunch of, filter and select all the ones that might be, that meet whatever criteria that you've set. right? And then that way you can send a message out, say, hey, like, do you like still
Are you still
require?
interested?
Are you
Yeah,
still on the wait list? Yeah. Do you want us to keep you on, take you off? Right. So that's a lot more efficient than having to do it all kind of manually. So anyway,
absolutely.
that's really cool. Next thing is we also have total clients on the wait list. So that way you can actually see a count of how many they are. We never had that before, and
And
it
it
was something that
adjusts
people.
too. It adjusts by the filter. So once you like apply a filter, it will say, okay, you got 10 people that are whatever your filter is, let's say urgent in this case, you got 10 people on urgent, or you got a different filter for the day of the week. You got 75 on that only want Fridays. You can filter them more. So it just really allows you to have that number, that accurate depiction of what you're looking at and seeing how those lists are. So I think that's great.
Yeah. And it's really good for KPI reporting and things as well. So sometimes, practice may have a contract with a company to provide certain sort of services, or they might have a government contract and they need to look at and provide data on. Okay, what's the average? If you want to look at the end of the month, like what's the how long people have been, how many people meet this criteria that have been on the wait list and whatnot. So it sort of allows you then to just to, I guess, identify that more easily and get those numbers without literally going through and like counting and
Okay.
going through it all. And things like with the way some of these things work together. So if we think of a employee assistance program, so it's not unusual that there might be a clause in the contract that says that maybe under the employee assistance program, if they ring up, they can't wait more than a week for an appointment or something, right? So to meet those contractual obligations, this way you can actually tag, the person as the employee assistance program. You have a tag for that, and you can see waiting since, and so now you can actually see and filter by some of these things. So it just gives you much better control and insight into what your wait list is doing. So it allows you to better manage that, but also meet any external obligations that you have in terms of reporting and compliance with whatever you have. So feedback we've heard it. It's out there.
Good. You're
So,
getting out of breath. I told you the wait list had it's like the wait list got a facelift. Like we have a lot of things happening here.
Yeah. We're not even finished, with other things we've got that is out. There's a new an updated look. We were saying like when you're adding a new client to the wait list, but more than a look, it's fresher, but also you can add things like date of birth and address. So that's good. Okay, improved. So we've got UI. So improved interface for SMSing on the wait list. So it just sort of makes it a bit smoother and feels a bit more.
Well, you also have more room too. So based on where it is at the bottom, you just have more room that you can still see the wait list and then have room to write your message. So just increase the functionality of the look and the feel. Again, giving it a little facelift. They did that, and they kind of really taking into consideration how the practitioner or how the admin would be using the wait list, and just making those tweaks to make it a little bit better. And I think it's really smart, and it might even subtle little change, but it's definitely, they've updated that. So I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we've got some additional columns or additional fields now that you can also use. So, and then you can actually sort of select and choose multiple locations or multiple fields. So we've got the date of birth.
There's 3 new columns.
3, date of birth, locations we've got, and we've also got notes, right? So you can put in the notes, and those columns then can either be, you can choose, like in some of the other reports, you'll see, like, you can choose what columns you want to show, what fields you want in that. And so with this, you can kind of choose, right, like what you want to show. So maybe you don't want to have certain things displayed of these things. So you can actually turn them on, and that way you can see those columns and have them in your wait list or not in your wait list. But again, gives you that kind of flexibility, and they were things that people were really asking for. And with the locations, you can also, one point I was just going to make on that is you can now also have multiple locations, right?
Yes.
So indicate, because let's say you have multiple clinics across suburbs, right? And a patient, is looking for an appointment and they say, well, I can go to this one or this one or this one. Like they're all within driving distance, or I'm happy to go to any of those. And so we didn't previously have the right support for that, so now you can actually indicate, those multiple locations, and it means that they will show up. You can say they can go to these 3 locations and you're all good. So
I like
makes
it.
life better. Yeah. More flexibility. Yeah.
Definitely makes life better. All right. So what do we got next? We've got time zones. So
Yeah.
this was one that we released earlier in the month, and I'm really excited about it. So time zones play a crucial role in managing appointments effectively. So
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about, okay, door slamming over here. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. That's all right. We're not in the studio, are we? We're in a real work environment. So there's stuff that goes on. We've had dogs walk in before. We've had all sorts of things. We've had kids run in when we've been doing webinars. It's all part of the fun. Okay. So with the time zone. So one of the things that occurs is that if you let's say, and where it happens most often, is that a practice might live close to a time zone divide, right? So they might be, close to where the time zone is different, and what that means is that the patients might live in a different time zone, but when they would get the reminders, they would be in the time zone. The appointment time would be in the time of the practice, right? And so it would reflect that, and that wasn't ideal because it meant that that there was a risk that they would misread it and think about it in terms of their own time zone, right? If that makes sense. So, like if a client went onto the client portal, for instance, and booked their own appointment, we have always had the technology there where it would show the available times in the time zone that the patient was looking at. So we pick up the time zone based on some browser settings, and would say, okay, you're in this time zone, and we would adjust the appointment availabilities and give them options that they select. So they're looking at times in their local, match their local time zone. But the appointment reminders and things were not. They when it would say your appointment is at 10 a.m. On Tuesday, that would be the 10 a.m. was really reflecting the appointment as 10 a.m. for the practitioner, not necessarily for the patient receiving the reminder. Okay. So now by allowing and recording, you have the capacity now to record a time zone for the patient, right? So that way you can, if a patient is in a different time zone to you, you can record their time zone. Right. And then that allows, it means that in, communication that goes out, it's utilizing what's relevant to that patient, the right time zone for that patient, and putting the appointments and whatnot in their local time zone. So it just makes everything far more efficient, if that makes sense, particularly if you're providing services. Like say with telehealth, we've got people providing services all over the country, and in some cases all over the world. So instead of, the reminders going out, with a time zone that maybe doesn't make any sense to the patient if they live far away, now it's going to make more sense for them.
So the by default, everybody will be automatically on the practitioners or the practice's time zone. You have to literally go on. You have to toggle that you want to change. Like there's a toggle you have to turn on, and then you can go ahead and on all of the client profiles, you can put in the time zone to which they are. And they made it actually one step better. And you can now, on your client forms that you send out to your clients before they come to your, appointment, or you want to do some intake, you can ask them to go ahead and tell you their time zone. And then that will go and automatically populate back onto their client record. And you've got the appropriate client time zone. So I think that's fantastic. And again, you could do it manually. You got them sitting there in your appointment. You could ask them, hey, what's your time zone? Add it in there. Or you can go ahead and just send out to all of your clients and say, update me with your client time zone. Then again, fill it in, and then your records will automatically populate. So they did two things, because that release first was just us having, or the practitioner or the practice having to update the client time zone. And then they went back and they're like, merge field, and they made that merge field. So a little bit of that working in steps. They saw that that's the next step. So that's great.
Exactly. And it allows us to, when we sort of release in steps, to make sure that the subsequent things we work on are really tailored to what people are saying, what they're. So we had a flag that likely merge fields, or, in the forms is something that people will probably use, but then we get the feedback like, hey, because we're saying, look, here's the next release of this, and it's now the capacity to store it, to record it in the client profile. And then we'll get feedback that's like, yeah, that's cool, but can't we? Well, I want to capture that on intake because I'm sending out the intake form. I want to capture it, and we're like, yep, and we get that feedback coming in, and we hear it. It's live, like, great. Well, we're working on the next bunch of things for that, and in it goes, and it gets out nice and quickly. So, it really is something that just makes life easier, and that's, again, end of the day, all the things that we kind of think about are is trying to make running health practices, more efficient, make it easier, better experience for practitioners and administrators, and of course patients as well. So this is something that was great to get out there, and and just one less thing that people have to think about. And and like you say, if you don't want to use this, or you don't, it's not relevant to you because maybe you don't provide much telehealth, or you service within your own time zone, you don't have to do anything. Just you don't have to do anything. There's nothing you need to go and edit and change. The system will assume, if there's no time zone recorded, and it's not something that's been, the system will assume that business as usual.
Right.
But if you go in and a client or a patient has a time zone recorded, and then the system will, utilize that, and away it goes. So
brilliant.
Good, very good. Okay, we should talk about this next one. Restore deleted invoices. That this sort of allows, there are circumstances where someone accidentally deletes an invoice.
It happens. We're all human. Accidents happen.
Yeah, and so what we noticed is that would be circumstances where people would contact us and they would be a bit, panicked because they've deleted, invoices and it had, particular information on it. And, so we realized that if people are, asking, for that, then it's more than just, once a year kind of thing. It's sort of semi-regular that someone would have this sort of oops moment, right? And so we built this function where you can now sort of go in and you can actually see and restore deleted invoices, and it will sort of, bring it back and put the, items and things that were on that before it was deleted. So it gives you an opportunity to do that within some time after it's been deleted.
Right. And you got a little toggle that you can turn on and see the deleted invoices. And then if you needed to go ahead and bring it back, restore it, you can do that.
Yeah, you got that option. Yeah.
Got that option.
So it, just one of those things, again, human error can happen. And, we just, please have that out there. Again, it's one thing that if someone makes a mistake, they can fix it up themselves, and, and away they go. Okay.
Like it.
So
ooh. That is, wow. That is, I wish we didn't count them, but there was so many little, big updates, and then these little tweaks that happen throughout the month to really continue to improve these. I hope everybody loves them, because I know the team behind them and what the work that they put into doing them quickly, really taking in the feedback, making sure they got it out the door, and worked wonderful. I am very proud of the team behind all of it. They've just done a great job.
And it's really good. Like, it starts with the customer team sort of getting that kind of feedback and really looking at what's happening, and then our processes that goes through to the product team, and the product team really kind of stand back and they look at it all. They look at the themes. They look at strategically what makes sense to do. that's going to have the kind of biggest impact. And then the product team work hard on then translating what customers are saying and what we think in terms of where things are headed, and then design out new features or enhanced capability, and that involves then the designers and UI, and then from there it goes across to engineering and product and customer work together to kind of bring that into fruition and get it tested and get it out. So there's a sort of a whole cycle that occurs, and it's great when we see we've been releasing more and more things, and it's been great to see how effective that is, and being able to get these things out into customers.
And they've done again, it's just really a testament to the hard work of the team. So they're just I'm going to give them a little round of applause, because that's what I do over here. So thank you to them. Thank you for everyone providing your feedback so that we can keep tweaking everything and making it the way you want it. So I think it's just,
and we got a bunch more stuff coming out. This is just happens to be the last month since we last caught up. We've got more and more things on the way. So it's great fun. So now looping back to this ISO 27001 certification, and we will just maybe we'll just sort of touch briefly on this, and then because we do have a webinar coming up that's going to explain more about this, that people can tune in. So I'll try not to sort of duplicate too much, but I think in big picture terms, when it comes to security and it comes to managing health information, security is absolutely sort of vital, and there is the content that people put into our system is the most sensitive type of content that you can get when you're looking at people's sort of personal information. And it has always been a really sort of strong focus of ours, of course, to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can, that the system is secure and robust, and we've had a long operating history, and have refined that over time. But we decided that we wanted to take it up a level, in terms of our it's not so much our compliance, but our external assessment and validation of our compliance and our meeting of the standards. Because when you look across the field and across the market, then people will make a variety of claims in relation to security and in relation to how secure their system is. But there's very little really way of knowing whether those claims are robust or not, right? And even whether the claim might be made that the system is secure, but you don't actually know, what's the knowledge of the person making that claim, right? So we kind of make an assumption that, okay, the people that are running practice management software or are responsible for certain areas have the knowledge, to be able to, state that this is secure and make sure they've got everything in place, right? But really, from a customer point of view, and we look at it from, if you're someone and you're choosing practice management software, or you're wondering, have I chosen the right thing? And there are, there's news headlines every day about problems with security and data breaches and so forth, right? Mm-hmm. So that question is, well, how do you actually know whether a system is secure, whether things are being done right? And the solution to that, how do you know? Well, really, it needs external assessment against externally set standards, right? To be able to know that objectively this system is being assessed and is being tested and critiqued from an external point of view. In other words, and with the ISO 27001, and in fact all the ISO standards, they're an organization. They set the standards globally and become like the benchmark, and then they control who can actually provide assessment and accreditation against those standards. And so for us, it was a project that we were working on for over 12 months to in many cases it's around making sure that we can evidence every single thing that we do. So if you think about the training of new staff when they come on board, to password management, to encryption, to penetration testing, to Um, the way in which an incident gets logged, tracked, and followed through, that the way our code is tested, every single element is articulated in the standards of what you have to be able to demonstrate, and not just demonstrate that you have the policy in place, because we all know that like policies can be written and sit and never get kind of looked at, but part of this the program to become accredited and receive the certification is that you have to not only demonstrate that it's implemented, or that you have this, but it's implemented and utilized. So we have these regular, what's called like evidence tasks that alert in our system that we have to show that, okay, capture evidence of all the recent training that has been done, capture evidence of compliance with every single policy and security requirement, and all of that is externally assessed. And so it's not a cheap process by any means, right? But it's very, it's robust, right? So in our case, we had so a team, of accredited auditors go through everything like in the system, look at all our policies, procedures, train everything there. And then they will have multiple like interviews, and where they would be a panel in our case of assessors, and they would fire questions live, and we would need to be able to demonstrate evidence in real time of each of those things, and be able to show, okay, this is how we manage this is how we manage that, and
Wow.
and our evidence of that. And we had several of those intense sort of interviews where they go through, and then that's to achieve once they're satisfied that everything is in place and is done and we can evidence it. That's to achieve it, and then there is ongoing monitoring. So it's not like a one and done. It's actually better to think about this as implementing an entire system of managing security, and we actually have like an entire software platform that we subscribe to. Yep. That helps monitor all of these things. So some of it is automatic monitoring of all sorts of things. It collects data directly from our for Amazon services and other things that we use. It actually looks at configuration and checks all those and alerts us. But also all the evidence tasks that we need to collect, it alerts us to say, okay, you need to show evidence of this, in some cases quarterly, some cases annually, some cases monthly, like depending on what it is. So it's a whole system of managing compliance and reducing the risk of things falling through the gaps because of human error or oversight, or a gap in knowledge that maybe an organization doesn't know that they have. And so as part of this, we have dedicated positions that are security, so data security, dedicated position on that, and also dedicated privacy and compliance person that operates sort of both full time, that coordinate with the rest of the organization, they coordinate with the external bodies as well, making sure that everything that we do, not as a one-off exercise, but that it's built in, and we are constantly managing the business in that way, and improving it, mind you. It's not even like a one and done. And to maintain, you're looking always to improve and strengthen and respond to the changing security environment that's out there. So, I mean, wow. It was a big, a really big sort of undertaking to do, and it's not one we're required to do, but one that we want to do as an organization. And we wanted to be able to, let people know, okay, it's not, in terms of our security stance and how we do it, you don't have to just sort of put your faith in me or Paul as CTO or our security guy and say, well, they seem to know what they're doing, right? But we wanted to do it, let's go outside of that, right? Yeah. And make sure that there is, there are these external ways of validating, and so people don't need to think, well, well, it adds another layer. It makes the decision sort of easier, and it in the times that we're in now, where data security is so important, it provides another level of sort of reassurance and another layer of protection. And I think frankly, it also ensures that we don't develop a blind spot, right? And that's something that we've always worried about, and always something that you think about is, well, you don't know what you don't know, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there is always a risk, right, that maybe there's something that occurs in the security space, and for one reason or another, it gets missed, right? Or that there was
Right.
a gap that So having these external standards and having external accreditors monitoring and having oversight, and then it provides another layer of protection, against something like that happening. And so, something that we're really proud to, have achieved. Certainly, it was a tough, not, it was tough in the sense that we just, to demonstrate in a way at such a high level that, okay, literally here are the screenshots of
Yeah.
each of these things that you need to show. I mean, there are hundreds of them, right? Like to be able to show. So it's not so much that the practice like changes. We had we've always had a strong focus on security, but to really put it into a way that routinely is getting that kind of that level of attention and making sure that everything is boxes are ticked and we're doing all the right thing. It's really cool, and it was a whole of company effort. Whilst Paul and I and our privacy and data security people were often like at the forefront of the implementation. It actually was every single department, every single person. Well, in your area, like even how we manage. Someone puts their email address, into
Absolutely.
signs
It
up to a webinar, podcast, right? How we
everything,
treat that.
access of, everything. It's just, we just, even though the policies were always there, we always read them, you always think, but just having that tick box that, yes, I spent, you spend the
Yeah,
time. And I think we did some training. There was a lot that went into this. And
yeah,
I think it was actually very good for the entire team. And, it makes everybody feel more confident just about what their knowledge and what they're doing,
yeah,
just to make sure
yeah,
you have all that checks and balances in yourself. And then you have to go back and see them again, and you have to review I reviewed mine just recently and
yeah,
went through every single document, and you're reading it again. And it's just, you want to make sure that you're up to the best standards, and it's a team. Everybody has to do
yeah,
it. So I think
yeah.
it's
That's right.
phenomenal. But I know you and Paul are going to do a whole webinar on this, and even helping practices, what they can do with their practice to stay secure. We've done this, but how does this benefit your business? How can you really, give this information to your clients, and so they know that they're secure. So I think that's going to be a great webinar. I'm really looking forward to getting that in front of all of our listeners, in front of all of our viewers, in front of our Power Diary community. So
Yeah,
come on over. You need to register for that, powerdiary.com/webinars. It will be on May 30th. So at the end of this month, 3 times. So you can find a time that works for you. Paul and Damien are going to kill it all the times. It's going to be great. I'm really excited to see this happen. And I'm so excited about this accreditation. And I know how important it was for the whole team. So again, I'm going
yeah,
to go back to my
absolutely.
round of applause.
No, it is. Really has been great. I'm really looking forward to doing that webinar as well. And one thing we'll just flag too is this approach of external accountability and external assessment is actually something that we are applying to other frameworks, and other compliance regimes within the organisation as well. So GDPR, for UK and Europe. Some of the HIPAA for US and other, where we're required to comply, but it's sort of essentially self-assessed. But we're actually going to take that step further, and have the key regimes that have that structured approach actually have them externally audited and assessed and been able to, again, so we can kind of demonstrate to our existing customers and people that might be choosing a platform to be able to say, well, this is how we manage these things. this is what we do, and here is external verification of those where it's possible. It's not always possible, but where it is possible to get external auditors to go through and put us through the ringer and make sure that everything is right, then we're committed to doing it, and we are well on the way with the ISO 27001 being the first one that we wanted to get done.
Come on over and register for this webinar. Damien and Paul are going to walk you through it all. As you can see, Damien's really excited. We are all excited. I'm excited for that webinar. So May 30th, register, end of the month. Go and register right now. Head over, get it done. And yeah, gosh, I think, Damien, I hate to tell you, but we're out of time.
Yeah, we're probably over time. So thank you, everyone. A very busy month, and we'll have more things to bring to you next month.
Yes, thank you, everyone, and look for us next month. And we didn't mean to wrap it up so quick, but I know you guys got a busy day. So have a great day, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Bye.